feels good to beat y'all. Can't beat y'all.
What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of Beats Per Minute podcast, where hip hop, health, and heart are all in sync. My name is Miss Thursday, and this is my co-host.
My name is Tayrn.
And we are having our first panel conversation. So I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves. So I'm going to start off with Jabree.
All right, how y'all doing, everybody? My name is Jabree Sadek. I'm a hip-hop artist, originally from Jersey, now down here in Orlando. I'm definitely excited to be a part of the podcast, have good conversation about music and mental health, two very, very important things. So I'm definitely excited to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you. Do you go ahead and kick it off?
All right, I am G. Ashley is my best friend. I've known Mama Ada for a couple years now. I'm a technical analyst by day and a DJ by night. And I'm really excited to be on this podcast. I'm glad they thought about me to have this conversation. So I'm just ready to get into it.
Great, thank you.
A couple years.
What, 13 years now?
It's been a minute. Neff, go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, what's going on, everybody? I'm Sice The Preacher. I'm an MC, producer, songwriter, podcaster, entrepreneur, whatever you want to call me. But thanks for the opportunity, Auntie. Definitely ready for the conversation.
Thank you. So today we are going to be talking about a couple things that I thought was pretty interesting. We're celebrating 50 years of hip hop this year, and for me, my biggest memory going back to my childhood of hip hop is the song "The Message." My brother DJ Ready Red, he got into hip hop because of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. So I've said many times I went to sleep listening to that song for many years, and it just was amazing to me that this song was talking about and creating such a vivid picture of what it was like to live in our communities, certain communities, if you will, and how it still resonates throughout the generations. So with that being said, Ciarra, what's your thoughts on the song, "The Message"?
Ooh, okay. So we be having these conversations about how there's a difference between situational depression and
Clinical depression.
Yeah. So you know how you always say if your circumstances change, how would that affect where you are on that?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because when you think about it, all the way that they paint the picture of what they're going through is just, it does sound to me like situational. Poverty ain't nothing to play with. And that's what that song is talking about. It's just poverty.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about the idea of when he was talking about the hallways, going through the hallways, and it's just I think he was saying people pissing on the steps, they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
You can smell that,
Yeah. Like I said, to me, it was always a very vivid picture. And even growing up in Trenton, where we grew up at wasn't necessarily the projects or a bad area. But once I got older and went into the projects or, traveled out and actually experienced what it was like to see homeless people, I already saw it in my mind because of the song. And I thought that was very, very interesting. And even to the point when you do research on a song, the person that actually wrote most of the lyrics, Duke Booty, he actually grew up in New Jersey. This wasn't he wrote this about what he saw around his area. and I believe it was Elizabeth, New Jersey that he lived in. And so he took what he was hearing at his mother's house and actually used that in the song. So it that to me just was like kind of crazy, because no matter where you live at, if you just have ever experienced like living in the inner city, or whatever, like you still could imagine these things. Or when you saw it, it was like, yeah, like, like that picture was so vivid.
Because we ain't never lived in the PJs.
No.
But we know people who lived in PJs, and that is a specific experience.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of what he talked about was not solely based on the projects to me. It was just, to me, living in the inner city. First time that I actually had experience of seeing homeless, like a homeless community, was when we were in LA. That was, my biggest experience of seeing that, because I did not recognize it like as a child in Trenton. So, but I'm gonna, turn the conversation over to you guys and see what your thoughts are on, maybe the possibility of, is it really just the projects, or is it just inner city, or is it just, whatever? But I think that the message to me was just the first record that talked about someone's mental health, not so much depression, but trying to prevent, losing it. You know what I mean? So what's your thoughts?
I don't think it was just about the projects though, solely. At the end of the day, that's where we from. Of course, we have high rises and things of that nature. Because like even when I came here to Atlanta, and people, like, yeah, I'm gonna take you to the projects, it's not the same. So, but at the end of the day, poverty, you know what I'm saying? It's just what it is. But the song is basically just being poverty stricken at the end of the day. So yeah, the message, will forever hold weight in music, whether they understand it, the generations behind us understand it or not, because it's so much in it. It's very vivid. Every detail, almost every line you can kind of see. And to play off what Tayrn said, you can smell the piss in a sense when you think about it. Or what do you say, rocks in the front room, roaches in the back, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? You could feel every bit of that. So, yeah, growing up where we from, I think even me as a kid, I was born in 83. So even me as a kid, it still was kind of that way. In so many ways. You still had dudes on every corner. It was still people struggling. It was still paper food stamps. So, it's going to forever definitely reign. But yeah, the message will always stand and hold weight for those that pay attention to it and really, try to understand it.
I'll go to Jabree real quick as the youngest member of the crew amongst us. What do you take from it? Because like Sice said, he was born basically a year after the message was recorded. But, I'm pretty sure you still can't even identify with so many of the things that was said in that song.
For me, I kind of view the song just as like awareness. You know what I mean? Like being aware of your surroundings, and not even your surroundings. I feel like the song really, I feel like it really is able to resonate with so many people, Black people specifically, and because like it's really just like being aware of your state of mind. You know what I mean? Like being aware, like just being aware of your awareness at the time, if that even makes any sense. Like, like yo, like it's not right. Like, you know what I mean? Like how we living is like, it's crazy. Like, you know what I mean? And that goes beyond just the projects. You know what I mean? Like that goes into you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like into all the way into you. How are you living? And only you know, really, if you know what I mean? If you're living to the standard of your living. If that, you know what I mean? Like,
that makes perfect sense.
Or I'm wording it correctly. But yeah, so when I think about the message, honestly, yeah, it makes me truly think of awareness, and well, I hope that ties in, because that was never my like reality. You know what I mean?
So
Like
what you just said actually makes it all tie in, because when you really listen to the words, it is someone that is like literally reflecting on their environment, their feelings, how they feel about, what's around them and everything, and understanding that this is where I'm at right now.
Right.
So I can't take too much more before I, what I'm saying, I lose it.
Right.
And so that completely brings you to having mental awareness, because a lot of people, their mental awareness, they think mental illness, and it's not. It's two different things. It's trying to be aware of where you are mentally, so that you don't get to the place where you're battling with certain mental illnesses. You were about to say no, what?
No, it's not. I think, especially in situations like this, when you do live in these areas, because people try to say that like poverty is a state of mind. Like that's a mind.
Those are people that never lived in poverty.
And if we're truthful, a lot of people live in poverty.
Right.
Like there is a big difference between, like, I would say, being impoverished and being poor.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a difference between being impoverished and destitute. Those are two. But for people who say that like poverty is a state of mind, we can all say, nah, that literally, like, you, like, that is actual proof. Like, you can go somewhere and you can see that, like, this isn't just a state, like, this is a state of being, kind of.
Right.
And so, yeah, there's a big difference between like a mental illness and mental awareness. But when you think about it, people that tend to live in our inner cities, they do have like, it's kind of like this curse of like hyper awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Because without that, it could get dangerous for you real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like that does tend to weigh on your mental when you're constantly in the state of hyper awareness that your situation is not the best. And so when you are seeing people all the time, like, he was talking about how, like, he's seeing like homeless people on there. That does start to, if that's your environment and you're seeing all of these people, I can imagine that the stress of that is complete, because that could be you. At any moment, that could be you. So, man, I don't know. It's just kind of like, it seems like it would weigh on you a lot when you're constantly, the only thing that's keeping me from being on these streets is just maybe like one paycheck.
Yeah.
That is all that's keeping me between being on these streets, actually having to live out here in this environment, and living like in this location that still is trash, but it's better than this.
Right. And that's the idea of, like you said about being hyper aware, because, there is that saying of like being one paycheck away from being, homeless. And when you're in that state of mind or living like that, where, literally anything happens with my job, anything happens with my income, I literally can lose it all. It puts you in very, very bad physical, emotional, spiritual, mental, spaces.
We're not supposed to be in that space all the time.
Because it causes the toxic stress that, that we discussed. And it also will make you either make mistakes that you might not would make because you're trying to hold on to the things that, you have, or else you will stay in bad situations.
Like kill or be killed.
Exactly.
It's like kill or be killed.
It's a very interesting concept. Let me ask you, G, being that you are from a different area, some of us come from up north. The girls, they grew up more down south than up north, and like it was discussed earlier, like the PJs that we might be used to are not the PJs that, you know, that even you and Nasia might have experienced, being that they're completely different down south. So, like, what part of that song kind of resonated with you from what you've experienced, even in your life, from, you know, a different region of the world?
So the part of that song that resonates with me the most, I would say, is the last verse, where he's discussing how, you know, the kids are born and they don't born with no certain state of mind, but they start to grow up and see the things around them. You know, I was listening to, I believe it was the Breakfast Club, and they had the 2024 presidential candidate on there, and she was mentioning how, you know, a lot of kids who grow up in these impoverished areas have, you know, PTSD, and it's not even post-traumatic stress disorder; it's present traumatic stress disorder because of the things that we see every single day. You know what I'm saying? So I think that part resonated with me the most, and that is the most relevant part of the song till this day, because we still see that. You know, we have our kids seeing, you know, the drug dealers, scammers, and it's even more mainstream now because of social media. So they're seeing all of this, and now they're trying to emulate that, not knowing the other side of it, you know, like, so I believe that is the biggest piece of that song that resonates, and I believe that is like the most relevant piece of the song for me. That's still relevant to this day. And I believe that song came out in like 1982, like 10 years before I was born, and I can still relate to that, you know, even in 2023. So I think that part of the song is the most relevant and piece of it.
And that's actually the one piece of the song that Melly Mel actually wrote. The rest of it was written by, but that's the one part.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I actually did it originally a year or so before in Super Rapping. He did that whole. So,
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, but it definitely, when it you know, when it talks about, and it even goes on a spiritual level, you know, when it talks about, you know, God and how he's looking on us, like he's smiling on us, but he's also frowning on us because he knows the struggles and the trials and the tribulations that we're going to go through. Like, you know, that is crazy, you know.
Hey, can I make a comment to add to what she was just saying real quick? I was gonna say I wholeheartedly agree to what she just said, because, and honestly, that's what makes me look at the song in such like a sad perspective. You know what I mean? It's like she said, it's the same mentality or just the same things going on like 30 something years later. Like it might not be specifically like, it's probably things in the song that's specifically still going on, like you said, things that's going on in the PJs and things of that nature, but just the mentality of it, like we were saying, like it's like kind of like still there, or we may have moved forward a little bit.
Honestly, it got a rebrand.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it got a rebrand. Like, if anything, got repackaged and resold to us as better. You know what I mean? As something you should aspire to. Versus this is something like, yo, this is how we live, and this is not how we want to be living. So it's really kind of sad. It's very sad, to be honest.
I also wanted to like piggyback off of that in the social media, and how if we did remake it and everything like that, it'll be, I feel like generations now and people now, we are desensitized to all of the things going on, especially because of social media. You know, seeing the killings and Black bodies, you can just go on social media and you see that. So a lot of the generations growing up, I would say even for my sisters, like they've lost so many friends that I couldn't imagine that. So it's like they're desensitized to all of these things. So I agree with what G said with the present stress disorder, but it's just crazy.
Yeah. And even when you think about back then, we were going into the height of what many people, you know, call
Reaganomics,
the crack era, and you know, and all of that, you know, craziness that it came to our inner cities and, you know, in the Black community. And as Black people, we have always kind of taken what we've gone through and, you know, try to make it better for ourselves one way or another, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when you think about how the culture began, how hip hop began, and how even during that period of, you know, if you believe that hip hop started August 11th, 1973, if you go from that period to the period of like 1979, when you really started seeing what you call the Sugar Hill Bang, um, how much had already began to change, where you had very conscious um, rapping as well as a lot of party rapping, because that's what was pretty much, you know, what it had been, where it was a lot of, you know, more so for the clubs, more so for partying. And then we go into the 80s and you start to see the different changes like every so often that many artists would bring to it. Like me and Tayrn was talking about, like, can we even see a song now that will have the same impact that the message has still had 40 years later? Like, has there been a song, you know, from any artist that y'all feel will be on that same level for maybe y'all children and grandchildren to listen to?
I mean, I don't think it's too many artists. I mean, we losing them really. Mostly, like, you know, X was probably one of them. We lost X. You know what I'm saying? So other than that, I mean, you still have your Nas, maybe, you know, but as far as somebody younger in between, I mean, J. Cole, maybe, Kendrick, you know, they kind of try to push the envelope a little bit, but it's not as much as that. I don't think the impact will ever be that big, though.
I got you. And Aaron, what's your thoughts? Because I know we did talk about, you know, Kendrick had a few songs out. We've talked about, is it Logic?
That's not really a good example. So
Yeah, not Logic. Not Logic.
I was gonna keep my comments to myself.
I do not pretend to know all the latest.
No, you good.
Shout out to Logic.
Not what
Yeah,
I was
shout out to
doing.
Logic, though, but
We were having a conversation. I was like, well, what are some songs when she brought
Shout
up
out
the
to Logic.
question? Yeah, like what are some of the songs that, you know?
No, I mean, okay, so when you think about it, the thing is like realizing that, like, okay, so there is music out there that I'm sure like has an impact and does talk about these things. It's just not necessarily mainstream. So
It's not mainstream at all.
yeah, so it makes it, if you're not a consumer that actually wants to go and look for your music and wants to be put on for people, like be put on to people that necessarily aren't going to be like the next huge artist out, there is music out there for that. But
Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about mainstream, of course you go with your Cole, you go with your Kendrick, and that's simply because like
they kind of pushed in our face, though.
See,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was gonna say real quick,
like,
like in regards to like comparing it to the message, it'll never be like that's impossible. Like the message was the first one, like it'll never be like it'll never be another first one. So that's part of the impact too, because it's the first like to do it.
Yeah.
So like you have like don't like as soon as you asked the question, the first song that came to my head was "All Right" by Kendrick Lamar. Now, those are now that's a song and it has the impact and things of that nature, but that's more of a moment, you know. Like the message was a movement. Like the message created, it opened the door for for this type of
for conversations like this one,
right?
Yeah.
For this type of conversation,
it pushed the envelope to kind of make
like
it
you can make
not
this
to cut you off,
conversation
but
on
it
record.
kind of pushed the envelope to open the door for those conversations to kind of figure out, like, hey, what's going on in our community? What's going on with our culture? You know, I don't,
like
and I agree with you. I don't think there's a song that will be as impactful as that one with all the points that he touched on. Like you said, we do have, you know, our our few here and there, like, all right, the baby, the bigger picture, when the
Right.
whole BLM thing was going on, like we had that one.
Right.
But to say we're gonna have something as impactful as the message, I doubt it. But I don't think, or I don't see that. I don't think we have anything of the sort
It's impossible.
for
I mean,
our
some artists
generation.
are trying though. I mean,
They
you
are
like
trying.
like the guy Toby. I don't know how to pronounce his last
Oh
name.
yeah,
But,
Toby and
Oh,
you
Yeah,
yeah.
know,
he's fire.
I
Toby,
love
Yeah,
Most
Toby.
definitely.
he's
you know,
dope.
is
He's
is a
dope.
Yeah.
he's dope. You know what I'm saying? So I
Well,
mean, there are some, but it's just like you said, you got to kind of look for him. He is
But
touching, you know, getting out there, but you got to kind of be like, what is it like? Have like that cult following type deal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
we gotta understand that, like, okay, so when the message came out, that was probably one of the first songs that
yeah.
really put on what was going on in these
Yeah.
neighborhoods.
That was my
So,
first
Yeah,
experience with conscious rap.
That's why we're saying, yeah. It'll
so
never
the
be
thing,
another that reach that impact.
no, but it also hasn't changed. Like, most of the time, you gotta think about the idea that, like, when when something has happened or something has gotten exponentially better, like, of course it's gonna look different, and maybe then, like, another song could come out and be like, hey, now we not living like this is great, but it still look like this in the neighborhoods. This is still
Yeah.
something that is going on in
Exactly. In
But
2023,
that
I agree
speaks
wholeheartedly
but
there.
that speaks to what you said earlier though. You said it got rebranded. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like in the psychology of the consumers, they not in the state of mind of Melly Mel, where he's like looking around like, oh, I don't like this. Speaking to what you said, it got rebranded. So now they looking around like, oh, my life isn't like this. I want it to be like that. So they're going towards that now. You know what I'm saying? Instead of
Yeah.
trying to get out of it, like it's kind
They want to be.
of
They want to be down.
psychotic. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, have that where, you know, when you listen to different interviews or whatever from like rappers from the golden era, if you will, and they're talking about, like, you know, when they were drug dealing and they went after becoming, you know, an artist and getting their deal so that they could get off the street. Whereas now you have people who never had to deal drugs, you know, but are getting deals and going after the thug life type lifestyle,
yeah.
where it was the opposite. Like, you know, it was something you got into hip hop or rap so that you could get away from that lifestyle, whereas people are getting into the lifestyle after they've already got the deal.
But whose fault is that?
They get praised for it though.
Back to
And
like,
I think all parties involved have all blame. All parties,
but
from the top all the way to the bottom, from the people who make it and to the consumers.
Here's the
but there's
thing.
no. Go ahead, Tayrn.
Oh, no,
I'll wait for you.
I was gonna say, like, here's the thing that I think about a lot. When, you know how they talk about, like, how it stopped being the drug dealers, now everybody is the drug takers. Like, that's who's making the music.
Mhm.
It's no longer the drug dealers making music, it's the people that's on drugs making the music. I think about this idea that, like, back in the day when hip hop was still becoming like the way out, like, this is how I'm gonna take care of my people. I might be doing dirt right now, but I'm gonna make music about the dirt I'm doing, and hopefully that get me a deal so I can stop doing it. The thing is, it really never stopped, because you got to think about it. If this is how, like, if you telling, like, okay, say this all the time, and it might be wrong. When I think about, like, the idea of, like, Hope's, like, contribution to the culture, right? And how Hope tells stories about what it was like when he
I
was.
think I like where she going.
When he was selling drugs. The idea that now, like, all the people that you sold drugs to, like you are now a millionaire, and people appreciate what you did. But that don't change that somebody's mama is still a crackhead because
Facts.
and so
That's a
like
good point.
at some
That's a
point
good
in
point.
time, like at some point in time, like there has to be some kind of like reconciliation with this idea that yes, like we are so glad you got out the hood. But my auntie was a crackhead and was
It's
doing
still
drugs.
We still here.
And still,
Like,
you're a millionaire, but she's still a crackhead.
hood.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
it's still bad for us over here. So we are so proud of you. We are so proud that you made it out of here. But listen,
Hey.
this next
Arcee's still back there.
generation is messed
You know?
up because you was out here trying to make it, my God. Like, so
And we going to buy your CD. Everyone that dropped.
Right.
of course, because, yes, like of course we love drug dealing music, but we also
Like,
know
yeah, I know
that-
Jay-Z.
It ain't
Like-
really just drug dealing music, though. You can't just say drug dealing music.
No, but we love that type of music because in the midst of us doing this dirt, all the stuff that we do when like this is the music to the soundtrack of like all like our lit moments and stuff like this.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's somebody auntie at the crib that is still down bad from all the stuff that
No,
was
I
going
get
on.
you. I get your
Yeah,
point.
Yeah, that's
I
a good
get-
point,
I
though.
get your point,
That's a
though.
good point.
Because
So it's like
Because
whose
literally,
fault is it?
yeah, I think it's all of ours, to be honest. Because I just to your point, what you're saying. Has anybody watched Snowfall in here? Has everybody
Yes.
watched
Yeah,
Snowfall?
of course.
And everybody
Have-
feel bad.
Have we all finished? Have we all? Yeah. Do you see where I'm going?
Yeah,
You see where I'm
yeah,
going?
I
Have
see
we
where
all
you're going
finished?
with it.
'Cause I don't want
I'm not with you. I haven't watched Snowfall. I'm that out.
I haven't
Nah,
either.
that was good for
But
Snowfall was
Are
something
you
good for the culture.
planning on
Yeah,
watching
so
it? Because I don't want to say. I just don't want to say nothing.
I'm good. I watch it even after you say what you're going to say. You can tell me
But
the
my
very
whole
end of
point
it.
is,
It's not
it's
gonna
just-
bother me.
My whole point is in bringing this up because just like how she had this thought about Jay-Z, I was thinking about this the whole time when the show was ending. It's like it was amazing to me to see how everybody like was like, no, like Franklin, like how could Franklin do this or da 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 da, or what happened to him, or this doesn't make any sense. And it's just like all the signs were there. He'd been shown that he didn't care about
Listen.
anyone to get to his goal.
That is,
You know what I'm
okay.
saying? So
Everybody
bringing it
should
back
be
to
feeling bad
Jay-Z,
at first.
I see that.
busted and disgusted.
it was like a
Everybody feels
50-50
bad
thing on that one.
But
No, I feel-
but everybody's saying, "Oh, this person betrayed Franklin. This person betrayed Franklin."
Right,
But he
right.
helped a lot of
Right.
people.
It's like trying to excuse him. It's just trying to excuse him for all the actions that he did. He's accountable for his doing, for where he is at. So now let's bring it back to hip hop. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like Jay has not even make it about Jay. We can get off Jay, but he's played a part into why the game is where it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it hasn't grown. Like, he was stunting on his audience. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you see what I'm wearing, you see what I'm buying, you see what I'm drinking. You need to get this if you want to be like me. So what does that make us do? I gotta go get some. You know what I'm saying? I gotta go get this. I gotta go get that. I gotta go get this. And then and the thing is, the culture's still not getting the bread for it. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, we just in a losing circle. You know what I'm saying? At that point in time. So, and just taking it off the drug dealer rap, if anything now, music, they treat hip hop as the lick. You know what I'm saying? They treat hip hop as the drug game. So it's like, yeah, I'm about to go make these trap songs real quick. I'm gonna go or whatever. We ain't gotta talk about. I'm gonna make this type of music real quick. I'm gonna create a little buzz, flip it up, then I'm gonna fall back from the music and then just live off my brands. They don't really care about the art. You know what I'm saying? So it's just the mindset, the mentality is out the window. You know, it's a free for all. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take that much time.
Hold up? Can I play off that?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I seen this interview with Oskino. If y'all know Oskino, he was part of State Property. And Tayrn, to go off of your point, one thing he was saying I could never be a billionaire. And so they asked him, why could you never be? Because he said it's always gonna be people hurting. He said, what am I gonna do with $1 billion? I can't take it with me. He said, I done sold all the drugs, I done had some fame, I'm still out here eating, billionaire. So then, like, if you sit and you think, it's like he's 100% right if you're that type of person. You know, most artists in so many ways are stingy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy because I got on a Tupac shirt. I'm not the biggest Tupac fan. But let's just say people love Tupac to death, right? He was a great poet, so on and so forth. But what did he really do? And so you can go down the line with a lot of these artists and be like, okay, so what did they really do? Everything don't have to be put in the forefront. Like, you know, I'm giving away turkeys, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing this. But you never, it's so many big, huge figures in music and just entertainment in general that come from poverty-stricken neighborhoods, but you never hear about them doing absolutely nothing. Even if you look it up, you still don't find anything. You know what I'm saying? So that's like I said, that's kind of like playing off a Tayrn point and Bree point. Like, that's just crazy though. But I mean, that's the world we live in.
I will say, when it comes to Tupac, right? The Dear Mama documentary series that they got going on Hulu right now actually goes into a lot of, I think, where you would have seen him going if he had been given a chance.
More context, way more context.
Yeah. Right.
Because he was definitely doing some stuff, but I think that what we were seeing, and of course with all the legal issues and stuff you had, that's what we saw more than what, you know, he was doing in the background with.
But here's the problem.
Go ahead.
Misguided child.
Even with people like Pac, the worst thing that, like, and I see that people continue to do this, is that when we see that, like, an artist is being destructive for some reason, it's just like everybody saw that Pac was going through like this real like mental personal battle, and like it didn't stop, because if somebody really got Pac some help, how many people would have been able to eat off of it?
Yeah, he would have been in a better position. Yeah, I mean, mentally he was just, I mean, they still was kids. That's what a lot of people fail to realize. I mean, it was in the early 20s between him and Big. I mean, what, they was 20, 23, something to that effect. But I mean, music is our gateway. I mean, like, for most of us, that's our gateway. No matter how we look at it, music is going to always be our gateway. Huh?
But no, I was going to say, I think that comes back to the original question, though. Like, whose fault is it? You know, like, is it one, you know, person or category? Whose fault is it? That's why I truly do believe it's everyone from the people who are funding the music, you know what I mean, from the record labels, from the media to the artists, and even us as a consumer, because we'll, especially today, we'll digest things from artists that we know is not that artist. And we know that's not who they are as a person. You know, that's what I mean. Not that artist. Like, so they give us stuff that we know that's not them. But we be like, it's kind of lousy, though.
Right.
So it's like,
these record labels,
right. Living a life that you rapping a life that you're not living.
We got to be more gatekeepers. We got to be more of those, like how I was in the 90s. I mean, even they were talking, even maybe the content of the music was a little more different, but it's like, hey, bro, you got to be good. Like, you know what I mean? Now you don't even got to be good. So now the content, is trash, and you trash. So it's like,
not to cut you off, Anthony, but we are definitely in a generation where you get a participation trophy for everything. Like, you show up and win. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, we are in a society where all you got to do now is show up. You don't even have to be good. You just have to be popular and put out content or put out something, and you're amazing. You're the GOAT. You know, like, everything's just so diluted now. Like, exactly. So that's a great point. Just to piggyback off of that, like, I agree. Like, we pretty much accept whatever they put out. And that brings me to a question. Why are we just accepting anything? You know, like, as consumers.
People don't want to be seen as haters. People don't want to be seen as a hater.
It's a difference between being a hater and just telling you, like, hey, look, look, bro, you ain't
No, you're
good.
right.
Like,
I don't like it.
No, you're
you know
right.
what I'm saying? Like,
You are
it's
absolutely
a difference
right.
between hating and telling the truth, bro. Like, if you're not good, you're just not good.
You're absolutely right. But it's like, why you
I
trying
And
to
think it's
stop that
because we don't
paint
have no
drying?
structure no more.
well,
Right.
That
here's the
too.
I think it's because
thing.
no real
When
family structure.
well, that
Yeah.
too, but when you think about it, okay, so when we say whose fault is it where we are right now, you got to think about the people that really um are the ones that push the button
Mm-hmm.
on all the music we get. So who would that be? The record companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of these
I
records
mean,
Right.
not really
own
no more though. Not really no
Yeah,
more.
because
no,
you
I
got a
get what you're
lot of
saying.
independent
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
There's
yeah,
more independence
but when you're
nowadays
talking
than it ever
about
was.
how we get here,
So she's talking about going back.
yeah, we talk about
Oh,
how we
going
get
back.
yes, going back. One of the
It's
things that I think we like the thing is when you we gave them like these artists gave them basically the right to I guess like sell our trauma because when you actually listen to the music that they was putting out, that's black trauma. All
yeah.
this
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
like we be dancing and it's a club banger, but
Pain.
listen
Straight
what
pain.
we
Straight
Right.
but
pain.
Right.
listen to
Just
black
if
trauma.
you could let me just insert one little snippet right here, Taryn. That's with anything though. Like that's from our
Yeah.
movies to our shows to the music.
Yeah.
Like these people are
Yeah.
profiting off of the things that we've been through. You know, our trauma. Like I'm so sick of them. Like
Hmm.
every movie there's slavery.
Hmm.
Every time you turn around, somebody's profiting off the pain of what African American people went through, and not even just African Americans.
I think
Always
the
someone profiting off of the trauma that our culture went through.
but
yeah, I
that's
think
because we don't keep it.
because I don't want you to be overlapping. I want you to be able to give your thought, but I do want to say like as since now I'm the elder in the room that I think the issue is right. For so long we didn't see ourselves, hear ourselves, and then when we were able to, and we got into the spaces where we you know go all the way back to creating rock and roll. You can, and throughout every piece of entertainment, what we tried to do for us became entertaining for everyone. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And so instead of someone finally saying, because hip hop, just just going off the hip hop, has made billionaires, something we never thought would ever happen. But these billionaires have not come back and said, okay, now let's create this for us. Because
Right.
before we've never had anyone in a position to be able to say, okay, that real for us bias, like Suzu was doing with the clothing line, we've never had that in any other area. You know what I'm saying? So until I think we get to that place where we actually are um, in a space where we're really doing what we need to do for our community, we will always have these type of conversations and wondering like whose fault is it, who, whatever. Because
Right.
when we go back to the 90s and we talk about that period where y'all are talking about when the music changed and there was a literal change
Right.
in the music and a reason for it. And
Right.
unfortunately, my brother was also part of that. It was for a reason. Now, because no one was in position to say, no, I don't want to make music like that, or no, that's not what was still this idea of being creative. And if this is what's going on in my hood, and you on the East Coast have no idea what it's like to gangbang, and I can share that because I want to keep the young, like, it's the mentality of why people were doing it. Everybody didn't talk or glorify the horrors of their hood because they
Nah,
wanted
you're absolutely right.
you know what I'm saying? They
Yeah,
didn't
yeah, yeah.
like, hey, young, you need to know that this ain't no
Yeah.
joke. But it became that way where we began glorifying it.
But that's the thing I was about to say
Go
is
ahead.
when it comes to anything that happens within our culture, one thing I would say is we constantly make the same mistake that we don't do a good job at like gatekeeping the
Yeah,
things
yeah.
that
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
important to us.
That
If
and who can get in, who can get out, man.
created
Hmm.
if we created a genre of music that initially started because hey, it's some messed up stuff happening in our community, and we need a way to like get this idea out there that this is happening to us all around like we are in this, like if it started in New York, we in New York and this stuff is happening to us in our neighborhood.
But that's not what hip hop started for. It wasn't just to say, hey, this is what's going on. It was actually to help us get through what we were going through.
Yes.
That's why I like even the concept of good times. Like
Therapy.
when I was growing up and good times was on, I'm like, there's nothing good about what's going on.
Good times. They never had one good time. Good time.
Example of what happens
Not there one good time.
when you give people that have no idea what it is to actually be in a black or brown experience.
You have two different sides of the coin. Because even with what you was about to say, there's other people that's going to say, like, yo, living in the projects was lit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
some people still don't want to leave.
At the end of the day, cool. I get that. It's some people that like living in the projects. That's exciting for some people. At the end of the day, it should have been a conversation of why haven't we kept this to us though? Like why?
Because
who's really in control?
They never thought it would be this big.
The opportunity to tell us this is what we need to put out there. This is the experience that we need to put out there.
Okay. So
we didn't have no control.
Right?
Yeah, we was never the owners or in control of hip hop.
Yeah, but
unfortunately,
you as well, right? We live in Florida, and currently, our governor is not allowing schools to teach on African American studies, right?
Yeah.
The idea of slavery and all of that, right? So, can we not say that that's the same situation of saying that, like, we should have kept some stories? Like, what's the point of even being upset if everybody can't learn about what we went through when originally
that's
is the
not
way
what
that
I was
we
saying.
started, but that's how someone can take it.
No,
if we got out our stories through our music,
yes,
through our movies,
yes,
and that exposed people because they were not exposed any other way, then why should it some stuff been kept to it?
That's not what I was saying. What I was saying is the idea that these people that are not part of this culture should not be the ones telling us how this needs to look.
Yeah.
At the end of the
day, we didn't have the power though in them offices and in them buildings. Like we didn't have that.
Yeah.
No, we didn't. But now that we do, we still aren't doing that.
Right. Why isn't it changed?
But do we have it?
If all these
because
artists
the ones
are supposed to be independent, that's supposed to give you the control of who tells you what your music needs to be about.
But as you're independent, you gotta be on somebody's platform.
You gotta be on somebody's platform.
Well, yeah, you have to be on somebody's platform. But I just think, my bad, real quick. I just think the percentage wise of the artists that's independent, that's really moving the needle, is not as great as the ones that sign right, especially going back. So if, like she said, if we go and try to get those guys who are now millionaires, who are able to look at the fruits of their labor, they don't even really own their name, their likeness, or their music. So if they do try to come back and help us and be like, hey, bro, why you not doing this and why you not doing that? It's like my hands is tied. It's kind of like a politician. You know what I'm saying?
But then everybody learning as they go. You know what I mean? Like a lot of them just learned as they went.
And that's not to excuse them either. That's not me excusing them. They definitely need to be doing more. But it's like these dudes don't even own, like, like Hove does. He did own he was independent. So he did own a lot of the things that he was doing. But
not completely.
You know
he still had to go under.
And he got all them contracts and things. Like,
he still had to go under a major.
Yeah, especially that whole Kanye situation highlighted kind of that a bit, because it's like who's really in control here? You know what I'm saying? Like,
you got to think with white people, it's about generational wealth. That's one thing that black people are just starting to learn is generational wealth. You know what I'm saying?
We're just starting to have those conversations.
Exactly. So the people that were already in place in these offices and had these companies, they basically gave them to their children or to their nephew or grandson or whatever, and they kept them going. So they're going to keep the same cycle. If I can, if it's already, what is the word I'm looking for? If it's already in place, why change it?
Yeah.
Because they're already going, Their
Yeah.
mentality is them as black people, they're gonna fall into it either way.
Exactly. I
It
was
really
about to say
don't
that.
matter
Yeah,
because we
yeah.
think about a dollar sign. It's all about a
Now
dollar
it's
sign.
But now it's a
Yeah.
That's what
a
it ends up
ride
being.
itself. It can just like it's automatic. It's like automation. Like now it just operates on its own. So they don't even really need to put their hands on it too much because they already built the machine. So now they just got to keep going to get candidates and prospects to just drop in. Oh, we need another
Just
Jay-Z. Oh, I know how to
be the
make a
face of
Jay-Z. I've
it.
seen it done
Exactly.
before. He got to
Exactly.
rap
Be
like
the
this. He
face of
got to
it.
do this. He got to dress like that. Let me go get a young guy from the hood. Where is he at right there?
Exactly.
Bam, drop him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But now,
And Kanye West said it best. Not to cut you off. Kanye West said it best in All Falls Down. Drug dealer by Jordan, crackhead by crack, and the white man
right,
get paid
white
off
man
all
get
of
paid
that.
off
Why
all
Like,
of
not?
that.
Why not
Yeah.
write this
like,
in my notes? I wrote
Facts.
that in my notes.
Facts.
The all falls
And it's
down.
really it's sad because it's a vicious cycle. So it's like we don't
exactly.
even own what we created, and the whole
Mhm.
and it's kind of it's mind boggling because the hip hop we listen to today is a completely different morals, principles, values, everything than what hip hop is really create. Like you said, what was
The
created before:
foundation of
peace, love, happiness, another advice, so people don't got to go out there and harm each other.
awareness. Like, yeah,
Awareness.
absolutely.
Now,
I just
drugs.
think my question
I don't know.
is, how do we get to the point where, or if we are ever going to get to the point where it stops being like exploitation and profiting off of Black trauma without
We fight
giving us,
ourselves.
like y'all don't give us
Yeah,
anything.
it's hard.
Y'all profit off our
Yeah.
trauma, but y'all make sure that y'all don't put things in place for us to even get out of these situations.
We the
So,
only
Because
culture that didn't get reparations. Like,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
so
like,
if they're not going
What
to
it,
give this to us, how do we get to the point where that is something that we give ourselves?
we got to stop fighting each other though. That's gonna
Yeah, I
always
was
be a
yeah.
thing because we
exactly.
gonna always fight against each other. I mean, Jay and Dame were at the top of their game. Like they had one of the biggest companies in the world. You know, even once they kind of stepped away from Def Jam and all of that. I mean, look at them. Like they still going at it to this day. Look how much money they made. Look how many families that they fed in the process, and they still going at it. You know what I'm
Billions.
saying? So as long as we can continue fighting against each other, it's never going
Yeah.
to change. It's always going to be the
Mhm.
same thing. Jay-Z, owns Tidal, right? Or
Yeah.
part of it or
He,
something like that.
no, he
That's
does. He
barely a
does. For sure.
platform. Okay, so and that's barely a platform that's ever pushed like artists
Yeah.
come here.
Don't
You
nobody talk
never
about. I
see
don't
nothing.
see
You never see
nobody.
nothing.
I don't see
Right.
no artist promote Tidal.
Only
None.
thing you see about Tidal is get a subscription. That's it, and that's all.
Or if
That's
Beyonce
you
or Jay
never
doing a
hear
concert on there or something.
nothing. But
Mhm.
you like you have platforms, me being an artist, I've been on different platforms, but let's just say like TuneCore. And you do have these different platforms, they probably are owned by white people or whatever, but they do give you that independence. They want artists to come there, they want artists to be able to feed themselves. TuneCore gives you, I think, like 90% of your royalties. And that's probably from a white man. You know what I'm saying? So black people,
And
it's just the fact that we're going to continue to fight each other.
what you just said is important because it's not always, like everybody that's not in our community is against us. I mean, there have been so many people from, from other races and nationalities that have really pushed the needle along when it came to hip hop, period. You know,
Right.
there, it was, can't think of her name right now, but she was from Blondie. She was like one of the biggest supporters of Grandmaster Flash in the Furious Five. For them to even have be seen the way that they were, as well as even with like the 24. So it's not always just about the race. It's about because there's a lot of people that look like us
It's about
that
what we
have
conform to.
I think
been dealing with this situation as well.
That's a
You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I think they just made everybody's mentality way more ruthless. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Just
Yeah.
like just willing to do whatever I need to do to get put on. So
Right.
And that's social media though.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
I would say generationally, how far have we come, and how far do we still have to go when it does come to addressing like our mental health or our environment?
Right. Okay, so my part on that and the part that I was talking about in All Falls Down when when he was things about to cover up what's inside. I feel in the Black community, African American community, um, we do that a lot. We don't talk about our mental health, so generationally, definitely our parents didn't talk about it. But if we bring it to our parents, it's like, you know, I'm depressed. Okay, go depress the dishes. I don't want to do that. I'm sad right now. I'm sad right
Right.
now. I don't want to do that. So it's I think we still have a way to go. It's definitely gotten better, I would say. But I think as a whole, we definitely still have a way to go because in the African American community, like if you bring up mental health, it's always seen as a white problem. Oh no, we don't deal with that, But why don't we deal with it? Like we're just sitting here and we're hiding it. We're not dealing with it. Like you said, buying things to come up with we do that on a daily basis. You have a bad day. It's like, okay, let me go buy me something to make me feel good. But you're not actually taking the steps necessary to overcome or talk about what you're feeling. So
Yeah, I agree, and I made a point to that as well to kind of piggyback off what you said with mental health and our parents, and not taking shots at anyone parents or anything like that. Like you said, go depress the dishes. Well,
mhm.
maybe I don't think they have the tools to like kind of teach us how to deal with those things because I don't think anybody gave it to them. So I don't think they
Mhm.
had the
Good
tools to
point.
kind of teach us the tools to how to handle mental health, how to handle these things when they come across. You know what I'm saying? Nobody really taught me per se. I don't want to generalize, so I'll speak specifically. Nobody really taught me how to kind of just deal with what I'm feeling, kind of sit with it, process it, and try to heal with what's going on. They also didn't teach me that, you know, the world's going to keep going. Like just because you feel in this type of way, it's not going to pause and give you time to get yourself together to figure it out and then go back into the world. Life goes on. Time waits for no man. So I think it's important that we have those tools and we teach the people behind us that your issues, your mental health, everything that's going on, and still keep going. Like not
Mhm.
saying suppress it, but you still have to be able to multitask to a certain extent, because life's not going to stop. But
That's
just
why
to
most
bring that full
artists.
circle, yeah, like I don't think they had the tools to kind of teach us that.
That's why
Just
most artists. That's why I
Yeah.
started rapping and
I
writing.
for
yeah,
all of it.
You know what I'm saying? Because that was my release. I mean, from being depressed, even now, you know what I'm saying? I think most real artists, that's where the creativity comes from in so many ways. That's how I feel about it. I know I always wrote, that was my therapy because in our
Mhm.
society, therapy was like, you crazy. You
mm,
had
Yep,
to be crazy to go to therapy. You can't just go to
yep,
therapy to talk out your problems. You know what I'm saying? So coming up, I
hmm
mean, what did you have? You had sports or some sort of entertainment, and it's still the same way. I mean, there's a lot more things in place. I mean,
Mhm.
we didn't even think about it in school. Like even with me, we didn't realize a guidance counselor was basically supposed to be a therapist.
nah, for real.
You know
nah,
what
Right.
I'm
I
That's
thought
saying?
they were
Like
really,
supposed to help
that's
you
nobody
really,
thought
get to
about
college.
yeah,
yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it was just
You
one of them
even go
things,
back
but
to just sorry,
Mhm.
I didn't hear you now. I was just gonna
uh,
say, even you guys might have saw recently, like a few weeks back, it was this whole big controversy. Cameron was like he wasn't going to go see Creed because of the pictures that was some promo pictures that Michael B. Jordan and what's his name, Jonathan Major
hmm
Mayor
did.
or something like that.
They got
Mhm.
their arm around each other, and so it's just like in the black community, like you even see with him, like to this day, like for years, and anything they say that they think sounds, a little gay, they
Mhm.
say totally
Let's not even talk about how homophobic the black
so
community is.
Yeah.
Let's
We
not even
we
go there.
homophobic
so
and
it's deep.
generations of how we deal with stuff and how we view stuff and how we look at everything,
I
and that we
mean,
just never was given tools because some of this stuff was based on what we believe. You know what I
but
mean? When you talk
Yeah,
about therapy, no, because the black
yeah,
community has been so rooted in. the idea of Christianity. And when you are going to church, you don't need nothing else but it said Jesus. If you are depressed, you better go call on Jesus. And I'm not being funny, but this is
Get
what
on
I
your
was
knees.
raised in. God knows I believe in my beliefs, but I also know that you could be a diabetic and they feel like you just need to call on
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. As a nurse,
Straight away.
you need to take
Yes.
right.
But
You need to fix some things
But-
and still call on Jesus, but don't not take your insulin because you will die.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I think we
It's not even
also have
smart.
to. Okay.
And that's so crazy that we say Christianity, but they say all you need is Jesus, but you also forget the part where it say faith without works is dead. So which one are we doing?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
so.
Right.
And I think that because so there is a generational difference,
Yeah.
right? And so the way that you see mental health or mental illness as a concept is completely different than how I saw it.
Yeah, my concept is not coming from what I saw out in the world.
No.
Or what
personal.
I read. It was personal.
Yeah.
So my thought process on really wanting to be very clear on, are you having, because we're going back to the idea of the two different depressions, clinical and the situational. Are you depressed because of whatever is going on in your life right now? Or are you depressed because there's a chemical imbalance going on? Because there's two different types, right? But when you go and you sit down with somebody, they're not going to care which type you are. As a black person, when you sit on that couch and you start talking about your traumas, more than likely you can leave out with some medication. And you may not ever get to the root of that trauma, but you're going to get to the root of taking some more medication. That I know as a medical professional, and that I know from personal experience. So we have had, throughout the years, moments where it's like, okay, I may have came off very cold to you when we had conversations about how you were feeling, because that, again, I just said recently, I parented from a place of fear. I was a young mom, so I didn't have those tools. So I parented from a place of fear. Me being afraid that they were going to get labeled with something. So it was like, oh no, you can't be this, because I didn't want them to. I didn't want them to be put in a position where they had a label that was going to follow them, for the rest of their life. So it was like, I want to be clear on, is this just a situation or is it chemical?
So this is why I bought this up. Is because Nasia knows I was thinking about this for months. We had this conversation about how do I address how I feel like something is something's wrong. So I remember talking to her, thinking about do I want to see a psychologist or do I want to see a psychiatrist? So this wasn't something that I was just thinking about off the whim. And I knew that before I was going to come to you, I really wanted to advocate for myself because I already knew how you felt about it. I already know how.
Feel about taking medication.
Yeah.
Be clear.
Yeah. But sometimes I think, and that's why I say it's very, it kind of, I don't want to say it aggravates me, but I do notice that I'm so glad that us in this community, we're starting to seek therapy more. But I also think that people think that therapy is the end all be all to our problems. And sometimes I think people forget that there is a clinical side to these things. Just talking to somebody isn't going to necessarily fix everything, especially if this is something that has to be corrected on a physiological level. And so,
and everything, go ahead. I was going to say, just in every mental illness is not depression. So just going to talk to somebody and doing those things. Okay, I can talk to you because I'm sad right now, but there's anxiety, there's bipolar. It's so many things that just talking is not going to fix. And I think that's the part that, people do have to understand. Like, are you really depressed or are you just sad for the moment? So it goes back to the situational. Like, okay, I'm sad right now. Okay, cool. But is this a continuous thing? Like, people have to understand that and understand mental health and mental illness as a whole to even like take those steps.
I think it's starting. That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Realizing that you have a problem.
The message was 40 years ago, but we're just starting to have those conversations, and you're seeing more and more people being comfortable to say, "My therapist," or "I'm doing," because those are not conversations that you had. I can remember where we grew up in Trenton, New Jersey. There was a health clinic in the middle of Trenton. It was in the 5 Points, and
Right.
it was one of those things where, okay, this is where you could get health care or, affordable health care, affordable therapy, whatever. But did you really want to be seen coming or going?
Yeah.
Therapy,
Yep.
coming or going out of this health clinic
Yep.
in the middle of the city. You know what I'm saying? Because this is where all the crazy people go. This is where all the people that probably got an STD is going to go to get. You know what I'm saying? So that stigmatism that even surrounded your ability as someone that needed some type of service, you might be like, you know what? No, I'm gonna just ride this thing on out because I can't.
And a lot of people did.
They still do.
They still do.
Like,
Yeah.
You gotta think about it. Back in the day, like, it wasn't like people wasn't saying I'm depressed. No, that nigga just crazy, or like he be fucking, or
schizophrenic. Like,
we just don't never
just a little touch.
Like, I remember like on Soul Food, they uncle in his room all the time. That nigga is probably depressed. Y'all don't send nobody up there to talk to this man, like nothing. So, like the way that we used to label ourselves, like our people, in the way, like, I'm glad that we having these conversations now, because now niggas not just crazy, like,
but you still,
some of them still are though.
Not all of us are not
Yeah.
always, you know what I'm saying? Like some people still.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You still got to fight against that mentality and the aunties and the uncles that's like, nah, you ain't nothing wrong with you. You ain't nothing wrong with you. You just need to, do X, Y, Z.
But like I said, on a we are not supposed to be, and we talked about this. We are not supposed to be in a state of constant like flight or fright, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, like, in this country, it's kind of like we exist in that state. Like, how many moments actually get to just be like at peace? Because like it doesn't happen. Either we're reading stories, we seeing news, it's on the news. We know somebody that something just happened to. It's a constant thing where it's just like, if you are not hyper vigilant, anything could happen. And so that does start to have like your body, like the effect that has on your body. And that's why I think like a lot of the like sicknesses we get, those really be related to us always being in that stress. Like
it does, because stress is not, the body is not meant to. There's stress that comes that's healthy. It helps make us act to it. So those are good stress. Like, if as we're younger and I say, okay, you need to do X, Y, Z. If that motivated you and pushed you to do whatever, then that was a good stress. It kind of built your mental muscle to want to be better, do whatever. But if it was a consistent, like, you're not good enough, like, you need to do it again, and I'm constantly putting you under this toxic stress, what I'm doing is I'm constantly in this fight or flight mode that causes cortisol to raise. Cortisol basically turns into fat, which clogs up our arteries. So it is a direct link of how mental stress can cause, physical illness. which we,
We
all
don't
of the
talk about
things that
that.
we as, African Americans fight against in our communities, that they like, oh, well, my mama had, the diabetes. I'm gonna have
Right.
I'm on that.
we got the sugar. So this it's not things that we have to have, and because we know that it is prominent, we have to be even more aware of it. So even that is stressful. Like, now I was skinny all my life, and now that I've got on weight, like I am stressed about having to think about what I want to eat now. Like this was not something I've ever had to think about. It is not right. It is not fair. It is not a stress that I deserve at this point in my life. Like this is not right.
Or just the idea that like so many of these sicknesses that we have are genetic or hereditary. You think about that, it's like we can prevent these things, but it's like you have to be conscious of like the fact that like this isn't something that has to happen. Like like just
Nah, that's a
because
fact. That's a fact. This is something that does not have to happen. Yeah.
no, it doesn't. And like all these, we be having high blood pressure like a month
Mhm.
in our community. And when you think about the fact that like we always under this constant stress, like we don't have to be this way. Like it doesn't have to be like that.
Right.
But nobody is teaching us that. Nobody is telling us that.
I
Like
mean, but some
Right.
people, regardless if you want it to or not, because okay, let's kind of bring it back.
Just, I'd say
If
just
you
biggie.
are under stress, you're under like we all find ways to depress, like to
Yeah.
kind of get ourselves out of that state. And one of the ways that we usually do that is music. You know what I mean? So that's where hip hop started. It was okay. We in the hood, we in the projects. We wanted to put on this birthday party to do a celebration, or actually a back to school jam to get the kids excited about going back to school. So what happened? School hurt. Now event this music, this
Right.
music,
Right.
the break beats, whatever.
Right.
Mhm.
So the thing that was helping us get through the traumas that we were going through was our music and then our culture. We was able to have conversations with each other with nobody knowing. You know what I'm saying? We was able to rock what we wanted to wear and dress how we wanted to wear it and be different from everybody else. And so that kind of helped us to deal with the stressors of what we were going through, right?
not as being
So
the ancestors and having
you know what I'm saying?
music.
You know what I'm saying? But anyway,
Listen.
so if you are now at a place where music is stressing you out, now what you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? So I just think that we have to always kind of come back to a place of thinking, like, that we really are consuming everything. It's not just what we eat. It's not just what we see. It's what we hear. It's what is surrounding us. So I think that sometimes that even when you don't want to be in that space of like being stressed out or whatever, if you do live in the inner city and you are a black man and you could have done everything right in your life,
Mm-hmm.
when you see them flashing lights, there's still going to be some stress there.
Mhm.
You in the
But I'm just
suburbs.
saying.
Well,
Right.
that's
In the suburbs,
yeah.
especially
It could be
in
anywhere,
Georgia.
Some
but
stress that comes because of the color of our skin. You know what
I
I'm
was,
saying?
Yeah.
So it's not about just trying to take ourselves out of situations that's going to eliminate the stress. Like as much as we're trying to
constantly in the
teaching
stress.
ourselves and we're learning how to eat better and and yeah, we could still have collard greens, but we just don't have to use the hog marls and all that stuff. But we still want to have that stress.
I
That
think
comes
I think
from
that's
us.
I think that's I think that's why we're so creative. I think
Yeah.
I think we are the artists of the world. Like I think our black people, like I think that's why going back to what you were saying, like or what we were talking about earlier as to like why are these things like always like why do we rap about it so much? Why do we make songs about it so much? Why do we make movies about it so much? It's like we have
we
arrested
know.
development, but it's like we also have arrested development. We're stuck in this one level. Like, you know what I'm saying? We haven't evolved. We have evolved. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying black people haven't evolved, but I'm just saying, like, to a degree, we kind of stuck in this level of like trauma. You know what I mean? So like, and they know it as well too. So there's this sells. Like, you know what I mean? So we just keep getting our trauma, you know, repurposed and resold right back to us. It's kind of like we just stuck in Arrested Development because they know we've been through so much and we're so creative and we're such an expressive people that we're going to express ourselves. Like, it's like we get the same story and express it in a million different ways. That's mad crazy. That's mad crazy when you
Yeah, because everybody outlook different.
Well, yeah, but yeah, it's different, but it's still kind of the same. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's still from the same thing, but it's just a billion different tiny slices of pie, where it's like it's still a step to the right, where it's kind of different. And that just shows how great we are, because it's like, oh, I've seen this before, but wait, have I seen this before? You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And that keeps us in that state that you were just saying, the state of stress. It's like programming. You know what I mean? We just constantly getting programmed to the same stories and the same traumas and the same things. So it's like, now if I'm really feeling some type of way and I come in here and we all talking, we like, is everybody doing well? I'm like, dang, do I really want to tell them how I'm feeling? Or am I just, I'm good. You know what I mean? Because in me, I'm like, well, dang, I know she probably going through her own thing, and she got stuff she probably going through. She just told me last week that how I'm gonna add something onto her that's gonna make you know what I mean? As black people, I know for a fact that's something we probably do way more than anybody else, because we, like I said, well, like we've been saying, we have the most trauma. So it's just like, stressing about thinking about expressing the stress. That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
It is.
And that's a good point. And that's why we're artists, and that's why we're creatives, and that's why we sit and have these conversations, because it's like somebody has to do them. Yeah, we are, it's been done, but it's not. Yeah, we see commercials and things like you're saying about mental health and things of that nature, but like, it's not totally, it's not in there, because like I said, like,
it needs to be on a broader scale.
Yeah, because if y'all really ask me how I'm feeling, I'm gonna just be like, yeah, I'm good. I'm not gonna tell you how I'm really feeling. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I'm part of it. You know what I'm saying? So
there was a really good song some years ago. Tribe Called Quest did with Faith Evans, and it was called "Stressed Out."
Yeah, love it.
I really know what it feels like to be stressed out. You know what I mean? Because we all know that, but we sometimes we don't talk about it. You know what I mean? And I think that the more that we do, the more that we see it's, have to be more gentle with each other, have grace with each other, as Tayrn was saying the other day, and just be more supportive of each other. When I see someone, at work or whatever, if I care about that person and I see the look on their face, I'm not just going to be like, oh, well, it's some people when they be like, I'm like, hey, how you doing? They're like, I'm all right. And I look back at them, I'm like, no, you're not. So what's going on? Because we all need a soft space to land. We all need a place to vent. That's why you have so many people going off and telling all their business on social media.
And I appreciate y'all for that.
We never really had that before, because one of the things I realize as Black women, what we do to each other is, if you're going through something like, say, a relationship with somebody, and Black men, y'all probably do the same thing. But the first thing that we do is, like, if the dude was no good, it's like, oh, girl, you ain't need to be with him anyway. You better than that, blah, 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 blah. So you can't even really express how you feel about the breakup, because then you might be looked at as stupid if you do. So we generally are like, oh yeah, girl, I'm gonna be all right. But
constant
we're still dealing with, and we never grieve that situation.
Man, crying in the car.
You know what I'm saying? Anyway, the producer saying I need to wrap it up. So you guys, I am so appreciative that y'all agreed to be a part of this. I knew it was going to be dope. I hope
Man.
and,
Thank you.
We could have did this for another hour.
We got a lot to talk about.
This was my therapy session. See, I needed it.
So y'all welcome definitely to come back as often as y'all want to have the conversation, because I think that it's important that we all start thinking about having conversations in generation terms, right? It was something I learned from, Ayana Fixed My Life, and then we started having those type of conversations. And it really makes a difference when you start thinking about, when you're talking to someone from this period, what their thought process, the way that things were for them, like it really is interesting when you start thinking about that. You realize that maybe they do care more than what you might have thought, because it's just how they was raised or whatever.
Well,
But
honestly,
anyway.
just the last thing I was going to say is the reason why I feel like it's important for us to have these conversations, especially me and you, is because at the end of the day, like, you know how they say, like, women be born with all the eggs they ever gonna have in their lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I joke about that, but you gotta think about it. I'm a result of your trauma impacts me somehow. At the end of the day, like, I want to know, like, what was that trauma? Because I'm here in the midst of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important for me to try to figure that out, because it's like that generational thing, we got to fix that somehow.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
the way you do it is by communicating.
Yeah, I need
That's
you
the
to.
first way that you
I
do it,
need
by
you to be as
communicating.
vulnerable with me as possible, because I need to. I want to know these things.
Yeah, and I think that that's where everything starts, is a message.
I like how you did that.
You brought it full circle.
All right. I want to say thank you guys again for joining us. This has really been
Thank
awesome.
y'all, man. This is amazing.
Yeah. And here on Beats Per Minute, this is what we love doing, just having conversations about hip hop, about health issues, and matters of the heart.
Hello, little sister. How are you? Very proud of you and your accomplishments. Love you. Take care.